Well. Welcome to another exciting day of the Crotchety Old Men's Podcast. Hi, I'm Gary Smith, in case you don't know that. In the room with me today is my main man, George Crumley. And as we say in Detroit, what up, though, George?
What up, though, Smitty? How you doing?
Hey, man, it's all good in the neighborhood, man. Feeling good, 10 toes down, as I like to say. And hey, look at me, I'm still around.
Yeah, every day is a blessing. This
Yes,
today is
sir.
no different. Yep, no, and it's just great to be here. Back doing some recording, talk about some of these hot topics, and just kind of making things go that way.
Man, I'm glad.
Education, information, exposure, opportunity. That's what we're talking about.
That's what we're talking about, baby. Well, man, what we rapping about today, though?
Well, in the news every day here, it's about voting. We've got an election coming up. We've probably gone through some primaries. So we've got probably some more runoffs to go through, but even after that, we've got the major one later on this year. So I thought it would be good to talk about all the different aspects of voting, because a lot of the stuff people take for granted. Voting is a privilege. Yeah, it's a right, but you have to exercise that right because the people fought, long and hard to get that. So I thought it'd be good just to kind of run through some things. And here's, I always say, if we can teach people one thing, then we've done our job.
Amen. Amen. Well, the topic of voting is certainly a hot topic, particularly as we talk about this redistricting, okay, that's going on all over the nation. And the redistricting, oh man, I may have a challenge today with that word, y'all, but and the power of black voters. And I think it's a very apropos topic because it always seems like there's some trickery or whatever goes on when anytime they start talking about jostling around the black vote. And so while we're not going to get too deep in the weeds on from a political agenda, what I think is highly important that we all realize, number one, what is this redistricting about? And number two, what impact does it have on us as black voters? And last but certainly not least, what can or should or will we do about it? What do you think? Think we can chop that
I
up,
think
George?
we just go right into it.
All right, then. Well, let's go. So, like you mentioned, I saw this article in the New York Times last week in terms about what's going on in the state of Florida, the South Florida district, where the lines have been redrawn and all that sort of thing. And so now um, it's really causing somewhat of a ruckus, if you will, as it comes to certain. And when I say ruckus, I'm just talking about a way of splitting our votes up, and we've already heard that saying that you can divide a group, you can conquer that group, right? And so, from my perspective, that seems to be the crust or maybe the core of what all this redistricting is about. What do you say, George?
Yeah, I mean, because I'm not sure if people know it or not, but your representation is based on the amount of or the people that you can send to Congress is based on how you vote in your city and how that's distributed, and then also the mixture of that. So, if you want true representation in our Congress, you need more than just white folks. You need black folks. You need Asian. You need people that represent the district in which it's coming from. So yeah, if you split that vote, if you make the lines, I guess I'll use the word dilute the vote, because if you have a particular county, in a particular state that has its majority black or majority in any minority, and you split that into three different pieces of pie, now you've diluted the vote, and your representation is not going to be representative of what that true area is how it's really divided, or how what the makeup of that group really is, and that's what I'm trying to say.
Right, right. Well, this Florida story is just one example of what has now evolved into a national trend. I mean, when you look back, I think it's just as recent as April of this year, the Supreme Court made a major decision in a case called Louisiana versus Callis. And in that case, in that ruling, I should say, it just simply made it harder to challenge voting maps and what that disadvantage does to minority voters. And so the construction, if you will, or the barrels of construction, I think about those barrels in construction zones here in the state of Michigan, whereas that to make that harder to challenge is like they're already playing the end game and working their way backwards in terms of the disruption, as I said earlier, within the black community, and of course the power of our vote. And so now that we have more freedom to I mean, of course, they have the freedom to redraw these maps. It reduces our power, voting power. That's I mean, the simplicity of it all. It reduces our voting power, and that right there warrants some attention. And if we don't move or get whoever that we are voting for to represent us, especially in these primaries and things like that, you know, come election time, if we don't move now, it may be too late. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. That judge ruling that you just spoke of basically was saying that the Constitution doesn't give you the right to choose your representative, which a vote should. It basically just gives you the right to vote. So, just because you're in a minority district, they're saying that the Constitution doesn't guarantee you're going to have a minority or someone that represents your area, of your same, uh, minority. So yeah, they're saying that it doesn't guarantee that, which is something that's basically it contradicts why the law was actually written and it's been followed for years. That we could, because of the fact that we didn't have any representation in our Congress, and so yeah, it's become. I think it happened in Texas, and then tit for tat, then California did it. So and then the courts kind of stopped it. So yeah, it's been going back and forth, and each ruling makes it more difficult to give us the clear view of how the voting should be. So, I mean, whereas they were just, if you can look at a pie where they were just east and west and north and south and cut everything the way it's laid out, now it looks like some kind of graft of how they've made these lines just to segregate how people can vote, and it ultimately, like I said, how they'll be represented.
Right. Well, man, here's what's really important too, and it's often overlooked. I mean, the hidden challenge is not just Republicans and Democrats. It's becoming an internal debate, really, inside the Democratic Party itself. However, for decades, Democrats have supported the majority black districts, right? Areas where black voters could reliably elect a candidate of their choice and all that good stuff. However, now, I mean, should we spread uh, those votes, voters, I should say, across the districts to win more seats overall? I mean, that would create a serious dilemma if we try to do that. So I guess the challenge now, and to protect the black representation and how do we go about doing that, but to dilute, I'll use your word there, to dilute the power of choosing our own candidates, to dilute the power of, you know, having a selective, making our vote count, basically. I mean, that's what it boils down to. And if you take that away, then shucks, you'll, just like you hear a lot of people say, what's the use of me voting?
Oh
Right.
yeah, and we're gonna get to that that comment. What's the use of me voting? Because we're seeing more and more people, take that attitude and don't register and don't vote. And here again, this administration is attacking voter registration and voters in every direction. Like you say, it's redistricting, and then there's also a thing called the Save Act. Now,
Mm,
a lot of people may not have heard of the Save Act. I didn't know exactly what it was, but and you hear this, it's interesting that they can take something that is already in place, but make it sound like something else. So the SAVE Act is supposed it's called the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility. And basically it's supposed to protect federal elections by making people provide documentation of proof US citizenship when registering to vote. Well, everybody knows that in order to register to vote, you have to show ID already. But see, they're making it an issue to make it sound like it's going to be a it's they're going to make it sound like it's something new, and they make it sound like it's going to put people in a position where they're not able to provide this documentation. So just kind of picture this: if this passes, which is it's on the legislator now for voting, if it passes, then everybody that has to go back and re-register the vote. Okay, so in doing that, you're required to basically show proof of your U.S. Citizenship. So you got to have a driver's license, which they call now the real ID, which they've made everybody get. You got to have a passport, which here again, to get a passport, you have to have a birth certificate. So it's kind of strange because, so it's birth certificate, passport, driver's license. Well, I mean, you can't get one of those items without having one of the other items. I mean, you can't get a passport unless you have a driver's license or a birth certificate, right?
That's right. That's
So,
right.
but see, they make it sound like it's so complicated, and people get so confused. And here again, they take that, well, if it's that hard to vote, I ain't gonna vote. You know, it says, what else? Establish penalties for certain violators of the law, allows legal action against election officials who knowingly register people to vote, creates procedures in states to identify potential non citizens using government. Non citizens can't vote, never have been able to vote.
Never.
So I mean, here again, they've taken the laws and they've twisted them so much that people get so confused, and that's what they're trying to do is they just create additional confusion, and then people say, it was hard enough to vote, so why should I vote?
Right. And that's such a strong point too, George, in that for our communities, black communities, man, this redistricting thing has like a double-edged sword, so to speak. First of all, you're splitting voters across multiple districts so that they don't have enough power anywhere, right? I mean, so you dilute it so much that just fragmentation all over the place. And then on the other side, you're concentrating voters in one district so that their influence is not felt anywhere else. And so you got these two sides. They're putting both sides against the middle, what have you, playing both sides against the middle, and what gets played is us. And so the voices in the communities, the people that's out there that's doing the gathering of voters, making sure voter registration is done properly and in sync, and certainly highly represented in our communities, uh, have to get louder, have to make a stronger position, and we, as of course, residents have to get behind them and come up against this thing because silence is acceptance. And for those people who have ascribed to the position that, hey, like I told y'all before, what's the use in voting? You see what they're doing here. Yeah, we that's the part. That's why you need to vote, okay? Because we all see what's happening. And so, shucks, if we don't do anything about what we see, then we can't be crying come November when stuff goes south. You know what I'm talking about? It's just, I mean, I don't mean no pun intended talking about the South, but when things go south in terms of the negative, then man, we have no narrative to stand on.
No, absolutely. I mean, if we don't influence and impact the government right now, as you can see, you know, it's going to get tougher because they're going to implement laws because of the fact that they've now elected officials that are more to their cause or
Yeah,
more to the right. And the further they get to the right, the more they'll interject laws that will prevent us from voting, and then basically stop, prevent them from getting out of office. Continue basically to elect the same people without, and that's the whole purpose. You want diversity in all of our legislation, so you can hear all different points of view. And like like we've said, you know, the Save Act. You don't really need that. But here again, it causes more. So you got redistricting, you got the Save Act, you got all these things that prevent people from voting. So just to kind of give you a taste for voting, 2024 election, the states with the highest turnout, Wisconsin, 76%. Minnesota 76%, Michigan 74, Maine 74, New Hampshire 74. You know, 74% of the people voting. I guess it's going to be. We're going to have to say that's pretty good. That's what three fourths of the people voting. So everybody else below that has to be in the 60s and the 50s. Okay, so that in itself tells a story. And then you got the historically states that don't turn out: Texas, Mississippi, Oklahoma, West Virginia, and Hawaii.
Man,
They're down at the bottom. They're
why do
not
you
voting.
suppose that is, man?
You say
Why?
what?
I said, why do you suppose that is? Why those states?
I think it's because of the voter suppression and the fact that they do so many different things to prevent people from voting. I mean, Mississippi, where we know a lot of people in Mississippi financially may not have the means, the transportation to get. If they don't have, here in Georgia, we're pretty lucky. We usually run a like 2 weeks of voting before the actual election. A lot of these states don't have that. It's vote on Tuesday, that day, and that's the only day you can vote. So if you don't have the laws that encourage voting, you got still a lot of places that have paper ballots. I was amazed at California, the fact that
That's right.
they don't use electronic voting. They everything and it's here again that double-edged sword. Is that good or bad? I don't know if it's good or bad, but right now it's the law that each ballot has to be counted separately, and they encourage mail-in voting. So if that's the case, people need to understand that. So their expectations is, tonight at 6 o'clock or tonight at 10 o'clock when the polls close, you're not going to get your true results because they're counting every ballot by hand. And it takes a long time when you got that many people in California. And that should be the expectation. But then here again, the negativity, which we always push. Oh, why should it take 3 days to get to vote? Why should it do this? And then people start to turn against that. If the system works, don't break. Don't if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Right. And so this is just me talking here. I can foresee a time when the absentee ballot or the mail-in ballot will become obsolete at some point as we move into a more digitalized world, particularly here in America. It's another way of reducing, diluting, or eliminating the black vote. In addition to the fact that it appears to be, you look at the present administration, how they either follow or disfollow or don't follow laws, rules, and things that have been in place for decades or centuries, seems to me like it's moving more toward a dictatorship. Okay, whereas that to minimize or try to dilute the vote period, elected officials are in there for lifetimes or they're going to be in there for a heck of a long time, not going to have these elections every 4 years and things like we've been accustomed to. All right. And it just seems like that because they just keep inching away to first of all, heck, we already know the voting rights history and stuff and what black people had to go through just to be able to vote. Now that since the voice, if you will, of these people, of us, or what have you, is have gotten louder. There's got to be another way to silence us, or to, yeah, silence us. So this redistricting, all these challenges like we're talking about today that are being imposed, is set up for discouragement. Okay,
Mhm.
that's what it's set up to do is to discourage you. If I can discourage, I can give you the right to vote, but if you don't have the access to vote, well, hell, you know, you're not going to go out and do it because again, you're going to figure, hey, man, my vote don't count. And and if we're not careful during our watch, is to make certain that people understand the game, understand the end game, and what's being played. and help us avoid being played by it, man, it's really a lot more serious than what maybe even we can share today on the podcast, because people really need to investigate this thing in their own communities, in their own districts, keep an eye and ear out for what's going on, and truly understand, or at least try to educate yourself or have someone educate you and get the information. It's what, June 15th. We need to get this information because the primaries are important just as much as that general election. But the primary to prepare to win is just as important as getting out there winning. And we got to win this thing, y'all, because it's not going to get any easier. They're not trying to make it easy for you to vote, trying to make it harder for you to vote.
Well, from a statistical perspective, I mean, we're right up there with other ethnic um, groups. Uh, Asian is 68%, white is 69, black is 63, and Hispanic is about 58. So, we're still right in the ballpark as far as actually exercising the right based on other minority other groups. But it's interesting when I look at stats that break up, what matters most to people that vote. The first thing is age. Those over or just older Americans, I'm gonna say over the age of 60, vote more than younger folks. The second thing is education. Education basically dictates those that are going to turn out, and income. You know, so if you look at each of those entities separately, I know when I go to the poll, because I vote during the week, because I never wait to the day of. That's all I see is people my age going to the polls. I very seldomly see young people voting. I'm assuming if I worked there, it would probably be different. And that may be because young people are working, and I got free time. I can go during the week, but and that may be here again, but that becomes my world if that's what I see. The other thing is education. You know,
Yeah,
those that are highly educated understand the importance of voting, but those that aren't may not see the importance because it comes back down to my vote. I'm just one vote. My vote's not going to count. It's not really going to sway anybody one way or another. So why do it? You're not understanding what the issues are, what people stand for, which are very important. And the third thing, which is income.
yeah,
Those with more discretionary income want to protect their rights. And it's funny, those are the ones that vote. I'll give you an example. We had a bill here in the city in which I live in. We got 92,000 people here, and we had a mayor up and a couple of city council, and I think it was 11% of the people voted. That's a very low turnout for
uh,
92,000 people. But the backside is you allow that small amount to determine who's going to run the city for the next 4 years, and those are kind of things that you have to look at. What's the cause and effect when you don't vote, and what your representative representation turns into when you don't vote.
yeah, yeah. It's very serious. As you were talking, I just reflected back when I was younger. I had that same similar attitude in the sense of the voting piece. Being younger, um, you're this is no excuse, young people. So hear me on this. It's no excuse. It's just that it's something that has to stop. You're so busy having a good time. That was my excuse, or even some of those who are in college. All right, you think what goes to going to the educational piece, though. George is right. I mean, the education is the key. Okay, because we have a large constituency of young black males out there who don't have a clue, or at least they act like they don't have a clue. And a vast majority, not all of them, but a vast majority of them, not only do they not have a clue, they don't care about the vote for the very reason that you just said. So no sense in me reiterating it. But here's what I want to put out before we get off the air today is that, hey man, you guys can hear us and each one teach one or reach one. Your vote matters. We see these signs about Black Lives Matters. Black votes matter. It really does. And so it's not so much the color of the skin of the candidate, but it's what the candidate is talking about and how whatever they're talking about is going to help you personally, help your community next, and help your America last because we all got to live here, right? And that's your only change. That is the change agent to make certain that whoever that's in the office, whether it's the White House or whatever, State House or whatever, make certain that that person is representing your concerns. So if it's wage increase versus the high cost of living, then you want to have that vote out there. You want to have that's your vote is your voice. Okay. If it is not having any programs for health, children, Head Start, and I can go on and on and on. Recidivism and stuff, going back and forth to the penitentiary, all those things, whatever is lacking in your life, whatever is lacking in your community or your city, all right, this, by way of voting, is one of the ways to correct some of those ills, right? And so, man, I can't say it enough, and I'm scrapping for words to say it more forcefully. We need your vote matters. It really does matter, and so you got to fight this redistricting crap. Okay, and how do you fight that? Of course, putting your vote where your mouth is. All right, and getting out there and voting, man. I can't emphasize it enough. We came on the air today because as we go through topics and stuff to select to talk about, George and I felt that, man, you know what? This is one that needs to be at the top of our list. And so I commission you, get out here and take somebody with you, encourage somebody with you, but learn about what's going on in your own community. You see the stuff that's happening and you want things to change, be that change agent.
Yeah, absolutely, Smitty. Just to throw this last group of statistics at you, it says so in 2024, which is considered a high turnout election because it was very controversial. 87 to 90 million eligible American voters did not vote.
Oh,
So, that's a fact. 87 to 90 million eligible Americans did not vote. So, but and those are the ones that are concerned that why are things going the way they're going? Why are different decisions being made? But that's why, because they're not voting. So my message is always uh, get involved in your local government, your local mayor, your local city council. Attend a meeting once a month, or if they're on Zoom, listen in. Because believe it or not, you complain about taxes, but this is how your tax dollars are being spent at your local level. That's going to impact schools. It's going to impact roads. It's going to impact what's being built in your city from a commercial and residential perspective. It's going to affect zoning. Those are the kind of things that local elections, and usually I didn't put any statistics for local elections, but I'm going to imagine that those numbers are even lower than they are for the federal elections, because for local elections people don't want to vote. And so it's so important. Here again, it's at home, because you can actually go to a city council meeting and go up to the front of the mic and speak your piece, and they hear what you're saying.
that's
Where
right.
you don't have that level of interaction when you vote for anything higher than governor and all those positions, your Congress, your president, all that stuff. Everything's a proxy at that point. But your local government is the only body of government where your voice can actually be heard. Uh, from your mouth to their ears, because it's a one-on-one situation. Everything else you're voting for is a proxy. So with that said, you got to make sure that you're electing the people that's representing your ideas and what you're going and what you want. Because if not, we still stay in that same spot of why is this, why is that, why are they spending so much money, why are they doing this? Because you didn't vote. That's why. Because you don't have true representation, because you didn't vote for the person or a group of people that want to represent you.
Right, right. Well, I'll tell you, man, as we head toward these next elections, these map changes could reshape Congress and of course, local leadership. But more importantly, um, than most voters realize, it just brings us to this question. The question I want to leave our audience with is this: is fair representation about having your own district or about how much influence your vote actually carries? All right. Um, how much influence our vote actually carries, it means a lot. It can't be tallied up right now, whether it's digital or by hand. But how it can be tallied up is in numbers, and there's strength in numbers and stuff. And so we have to band together. We have to realize, and the education piece, I go back to what George you said earlier. Education is the key, and a lot of this education is going to be gathered at the dining room table. Okay, at the lunch counters, when you're breaking bread somewhere at a restaurant or what have you. Um, Bring it up. You got to talk about it. You got to strategize. Having a plan without a strategy is no better than a doggone grocery list. We got to have a plan, but we got to have a strategy on how to execute that plan. And so let's get out there, y'all. Make our vote count. We're not looking for this district situation thing that has no pulse. We need to make our votes heard, make them count, and make them be effective. Hold people accountable too, whoever it is you're voting for. Don't vote on popularity or celebrity status or some ex football player or singer or something like that. Now, no shade on those people, however, but make sure you check their track record, that their political agenda is strong, that they know what the heck they're talking about. You're not just voting on them because they was once on Dancing with the Stars. Okay, so
Good point, Smitty, because I think that's as equally important as voting is understanding who you're voting for. I mean, they have a lot of websites, and with the chat services and Google, you can look at the people's name that are running and see if they're here again represent your cause. Just because they're a Democrat or Republican doesn't mean that they're representing your thoughts and your cause and what you're trying to do. So yeah, that's just as important, is that you research. I mean, here again, we talk about California. They had 61 people on the ballot for governor and mayor of Los Angeles, governor of the state and the and mayor of LA. 61 candidates. Those are kind of elections you can't just walk in and click a button blindfolded. You got to know who is going to represent you, and you got to understand why these people are running. What's their cause? I mean, the Georgia election right now is just ridiculous. I mean, we got two crooks. I mean, every commercial is these two Republicans. They go at each other. This one stole this amount of money. This one did this. I mean, you got two crooks running. It's ridiculous. But you got to research, like you said, you just can't, because one of them was a sports person, or one was a politician before. You still got to research them and figure out, which one is going to represent your cause, and then you got to look at it. Okay, so if I can't vote for either one, what do I do with my vote then? So you're really in a pickle then. So it's voting is more than just going in. If we finally get you out there and then clicking the lever, you got to know who you're voting for too.
that's right. That's right. All right, man. Well, this has been a good one. Hopefully, the people tune in. Go to YouTube. You know where to find us. We're not hard to find on your favorite podcast vehicle, what have you. Whether that be iHeart, Spotify, YouTube. Look for the Crotchety Old Men podcast. Tune in, and hopefully, we've inspired you, educated you, encouraged you, and given you some information that you can use this week. And that's it. I have George. Anything else?
Oh, absolutely, man. But we can't end it all without you giving us some words of wisdom. I mean, we can't get you off the hook. So what we got for our audience today?
Well, this is going to be simple. Wherever there is change and uncertainty, there is opportunity.
My favorite word, opportunity.
Opportunity, man. And we
Yes,
live in,
sir.
yeah, we live in
All right,
a,
Smitty, you have a great one.
all right, you have a better one.
All
Until
right.
next
Take
time,
care. Be blessed.
peace.
Peace.